Hello and welcome everybody to our short lecture on Congress, short being a matter of perspective. The reason that we're talking about Congress next is that it is theoretically the most important branch of government. When the founding fathers were writing the Constitution, the very first thing they wrote about in Article 1 was Congress before they wrote about the president or the Supreme Court. In almost every democratic or semi-democratic government around the world, you'll see some form of an assembly or legislature, which is a collective representative body like our Congress. And so we're going to talk about the logistics of the United States Congress today. Theoretically, again, the most powerful and important branch of government. So once you've been elected to Congress, you're pretty much set in the sun. So on top of the power that you officially have in your role, you're also kind of just set personally. So Congress people get paid pretty well. They get a good salary. They get really generous retirement benefits. So even after you leave Congress, you get paid pretty well every year for the rest of your life. You get to keep your health benefits. There's a gym just for members of Congress. So it's a pretty glamorous job, despite what the textbook who made this slide said. Especially with our current age of social media, you kind of have whatever platform you want, and you can be as much of a celebrity as you would like or dislike, as we have found out. The requirements to be in Congress were written by the founding fathers in the Constitution at a time when people didn't live as long. So they're not super stringent by today's standards. To be elected to the House of Representatives, you only need to be 25, so I would be eligible. You have to have also been a citizen for 7 years. To be in the Senate, it's a little tougher. You have to be at least 30, so I wouldn't be eligible yet, but I'm getting close, and have been a citizen for 9 years. You also have to reside in the state that you are representing. However, if you're elected to be a member of the House of Representatives, you don't have to live in the district that you represent because they didn't specify that in the Constitution. Now, you probably should, but there are members of Congress who don't actually live in the district they represent. So Congress, when we say Congress, we're talking about two parts of Congress. There's the House of Representatives and there's the Senate. The House of Representatives is made up of 435 individual members, each of them representing a district around the country. So the whole country is split into 435 districts. Now, with each census, sometimes they add or subtract districts or move them around because each district theoretically has to have about the same amount of people in each one. But that also means that they could vary in geographic size. Each of those representatives serves for 2 years, and then they have to run for re-election or re-elect somebody else. So it's a relatively short term, and there's a little less glamour because you're part of a large body. This is where you'll get a much more diverse range of people because they're only being elected by a small proportion of the country. Currently, Democrats control the House. There are more Democrats than Republicans, as you see in this figure. The gray dots are people that technically don't identify with either party, but as you can see, there are a lot of so-called independents who almost always vote with Republicans and less so-called independents that almost always vote with Democrats, but there are slightly more Democrats than Republicans, although there were more Democrats before the elections in November. The Senate is made up of 100 people. So each state gets 2 senators. 50 states, that means there's 100 senators. Each senator serves a 6-year term. So it's a much more powerful position because you're in office longer. You represent an entire state. The Senate currently is just about tied. So there are 48 Democrats, 50 Republicans, but then 2 independents, one of which is Bernie Sanders, who almost always vote with the Democrats. So you could say that there's 50 Democrats and basically 50 Republicans. 2 of those people are also technically independents, but they always vote with the Republicans. They might as well just be Republicans. So it's basically a 50-50 split. However, when there's a tie in the Senate, the vice president gets to cast the tie-breaking vote. And because the vice president, Kamala Harris, is a Democrat, you can say that Democrats control the Senate. So the Democrats control both the House and the Senate. Now, it's possible, and this was true before November, for example, the Republicans to control the Senate and the Democrats to control the House. House of Representatives.